Hello and welcome to the B-Side. My name is David Snipes again from 7poundbag.com and thank you for watching. I'm going to take a quick break from comic books for a bit and we're going to talk wrestling. Something other 300-pound fat white guys who wear glasses want to talk about. Now, truth be told, I don't really watch wrestling anymore, haven't for quite some time, to be quite honest with you. But I was a huge fan growing up. Grew up in the 80s and 90s, back when it was better, because, yes, it was. And I don't care what you say. I don't think anybody who watches the current product really looks back and says, the 80s kind of sucked when it came to wrestling. True, our lows may have been lower, but I think our highs were definitely higher, to be quite honest with you. But the question that always comes up is who's the best wrestler? Or who's better between Hogan and Flair? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And again, if you'll know anything about me, if you ask me a question, especially in a historical basis, I'm going to come at you with a qualifier. Well, who's better, this person or that person? Well, in what sense? In what meaning do you mean? For example, when I talk about, the last 3 weeks, who's better, Avengers or Justice League? Well, which Avengers? Which Justice League? Let's talk power sets, etc. and so forth. I'm kind of looking at it this way here as well. So I think a lot of when you ask those kind of questions boils down to what's a wrestler's job? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. What is a professional wrestler's job? Because it's not winning. Anyone could win. How could it win? Quite easily. Who's on the wrestlers' paychecks? This is not like legitimate sports competition. Sorry, in case spoiler alert, I guess I should say that. Where I can say who's better, Kobe versus LeBron, Kobe versus MJ versus LeBron, Wilt versus, you could literally sit down with their statistics, their classifications, how they played the game, what they did, points, rebounds, assists, etc. Or like today, who's better, LeBron or Durant? Well, quite easily, we could give them a basketball and say winner gets $1 billion. Let's play to 21. See what happens. That'll tell you exactly who's better. Same thing in sports. Who's better? Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson? Well, we kind of saw that last Saturday. Of course, there's all the caveats and everything that goes with it, but you can sit there and judge the two of them side by side because they're both trying their best. Who's better between wrestler A and wrestler B? Whoever the booker says so. Because that's kind of how it goes. If Vince says you lay down for this guy, you lay down for that guy or you lose your job. It's kind of like, hate to say it, I could beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Does that mean I'm a better wrestler? Heck no. Does that mean Vince McMahon wants me to win? Heck yeah. Same thing. Who's better between Hogan and Flair? Whoever Ted Turner, or Eric Bischoff, I guess I should say, says lay down for this guy. That's how you win. So winning is not the wrestler's job, especially in today's 50-50 WWE booking. You can't exactly say, none of these wrestlers exactly have a 90% winning percentage. So no, winning is not the wrestler's job. So some of you may be thinking, is it selling t-shirts? Is it the old quote, talk him into the building? Doing the whole Dusty Rhodes where, just by making a famous speech, is it walking them into the building? Is it selling t-shirts? Is that why Austin's right up there with his Austin 316? Is it Hogan / Hall / Nash for creating the NWA? Probably the most popular t-shirt ever made, which I think they're still selling 20 years after the fact. No, not really. Because, again, how do you get popular enough to run t-shirts? How do you get popular enough to sell tickets? You kind of got to be given that opportunity. You have to be given that choice. So is it to sell t-shirts, to sell tickets, to do the old Dusty Rhodes walk them into the building? Well, no, not really. That's a great part of it. I mean, obviously you want to sell all your Austin 316s, your Hulkamania t-shirts, your NWO t-shirts, and all that good fun stuff. But that does kind of dovetail into what I think a wrestler's actual job is. You have to make your company better. I think any time that you're part of a profit-sharing type situations, which wrestlers certainly are, I think your job is to make it better. If you're what, most of us are here, where basically you get paid for showing up at 8 o'clock, working until 5 o'clock, and then going home, other than your 401k is about the only thing that you're really got to worry about, you're not really a partner with your business. I mean, where I work, as long as the company's door is open, I'm still getting a paycheck. Most of y'all are the same way. Hopefully, one day I'll be higher up on the food chain where that actually matters. Where they get, they kick a certain percentage my way. I think we're all kind of hoping and praying for that one day. But people like wrestlers, NFL players, NBA players, anytime that pie grows, they get part of it. And I think your job as a wrestler is to make that pie grow. Whether it's winning matches, whether it's selling t-shirts, whether it's selling bumper stickers or ice cream bars or whatever the heck else the WWE, NWO, WCW, whatever put out there, that's part of your job is to make that work better. When I went to go see wrestling in Wilmington, North Carolina back in the 80s, if I took a friend with me, the wrestler in that ring's job is to make my friend, who's not a fanatical fan, want to come back next time they showed up. Wanted to make sure that I bought a Four Horsemen t-shirt as I walked out the building. Was to make sure that both of us was watching on the Superstation at 6:05, etc. and so forth. That's their job, is to make me keep wanting to come back, to keep making me more of a fan, to make me want to get more absorbed in the product, to make me want to go to Kmart and buy those big, huge LJN rubber figures. That was their job, and that's the way I look at a wrestler's job. Do they make you want to come back? Do they make you want to buy a t-shirt? Do they make you want to tune into the USA Network? Does it make you want to buy that subscription? It's kind of like, I'm not going to watch the current product. I'm not gonna. So now it's kind of, are they going to make me miss it so much that I'm going to pay the $9.95 to get the WWE Network? At that case, it's not Roman Reigns that made me a fan. It's not Becky Lynch that made me a fan. It was Ric Flair who made me a fan 30 years ago. He's still doing his job by adding one more subscription to that WWE Network. It's, Kevin Nash making me more of a fan to make me want to go back and rewatch the NWA Glory years, etc. and so forth. That's kind of how that works. That, to me, is what a wrestler's job is. So, yes, that literally does beg the question. Could Hogan have done Flair's job? Could Flair have done Hogan's job? Hogan's job was fairly simple, but extremely difficult to pull off. But if you looked at his job description, his job was to be a larger-than-life hero, go down to the ring, get the snot kicked at him for a couple of minutes, get hit with a finisher, make really odd gyrations, punch somebody a couple times, hit him with the big boot, maybe throw in a power slam, maybe throw in a body slam, drop the leg, Hogan must pose. Hashtag. And that was his job. Move on to the next town. That's entirely different what Flair's job was. And I'll come back to Flair's job in a bit here. But when you saw Hogan in Pittsburgh, for example, and he beat Bundy, Hogan didn't care what happened next week in Pittsburgh. He was gone. He was in Boston the next week, or he was in Connecticut the next week, or he was in MSG the next week. He didn't care what happened to the Pittsburgh market, or whoever was left. You didn't have... You had 2, possibly 3 touring companies, and if you were on that circuit with Hogan, him and his opponent, whether it be Orndorff or Andre the Giant or Roddy Piper or anybody else that they were throwing in with them, Don Morocco, they went around, they did the same match a dozen times, and every now and again they'd show up for TV and do that match. And they would build to the next huge card, the next huge event, where Hogan would finally vanquish him once and for all and move on to the next dude. That was the Hogan job. While he was doing that, Vince was putting the pieces together to absorb most of the good people from the AWA, to take people from the other regions to build for WrestleMania, to try to take over the TV talent. And he used Hogan for that. And Hogan basically just had to sell his t-shirts, his ice cream bars, his slogan of WrestleMania to move on with it. And that was his job. His job was not work rate. Hogan was never a great in-ring wrestler. Sorry, Bret Hart, I could care less what you say, but that wasn't his job, was to have 5-star match after 5-star match. His job was not to cut a great promo, even though he was a decent and possibly underrated promo guy. But I don't think anybody knows any of his promos word for word outside of What You Gonna Do, which is more of a catchphrase than a promo. People like Dusty Rhodes, the whole son of a plumber. I mean, there are people that I know, and it would not surprise me at all if Steve, who writes on our website, doesn't know, that promo by heart. I guarantee you at one time I probably knew the promo by heart. Ric Flair, most of his promos, a lot of the same stuff would come out there. The Arn Anderson My Spot promo. A lot of those promos, yes, they're great. Yes, they're classics. But that wasn't what Hogan needed to do. He didn't need to have this great speech. People came to see Hulk Hogan because of his whole persona, not because of some promo that he cut. I could probably come up with 20 better promo guys than Hogan. But again, that wasn't his job. His job was, to show up to the ring, hit the boots, look great on Arsenio Hall, pose at the end, look like a monster killer, because that's what his job was. So no, it's not promo, it's not selling t-shirts, it's not that and the other. It's making the WWE brand that big, because when you went to go see the WWF at that time, you were going to see mountains of Hulkamania t-shirts. You were going to see mountains of merchandise sold. You were going to see Hogan pose. But the thing about it is, for those of you that say, yeah, that was his job, that's what he was supposed to do, if you went to go see the B-side of the WWF, you saw the same merchandise tables. You saw the same mountains of merchandise. You saw the same foam fingers. But the people that bought tickets for that, they weren't going to go see Hulkamania. They knew Hulk Hogan wasn't even going to be there. They were going to see Randy Savage. They were going to see the Hart Foundation. They were going to see Demolition. Brags at times his side actually outdrew Hulk Hogan's in the same markets. So no, if you can say that Hogan's job was to sell t-shirts and all that, then how come they were buying t-shirts when he wasn't even there, just to show support and hope that one day he would show up? No, it's because it was that brand. You saw the big WWF logos everywhere because they were like, this is our wrestling company, this is our champion, this is who you're here to see, even though he's not here. No, you're here to see the WWF product, you're here to see the WWF superstars. You're here to see Macho Man take on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. You're here to see George the Animal Steel tear stuff apart. That's what you're here for. You're here to see our superstars live and in living color, so to speak. So that was Hogan's job. And I think he did it great. I think he did a wonderful job with it. And the question remains, could Flair have done that? Well, let's look at Flair's job. Flair's job was to, for example, go into Dallas Stadium and have a match with, say, David Von Erich, or King Kong Bundy, or Mike Von Erich, or, yeah, I know. And then, make them look good, look like they could take that title, same as Harley Race did, same as Dusty Rhodes did, same as Terry Funk did, same as going all the way back. But make the local guy look like he could have won. By the time Flair got there, it was Flair had to win by dirty maneuvers. He had to get lucky. Trapped in the sleeper hold, almost ready to pass out. Had it been a 35-minute match instead of a 30-minute match, he wouldn't be the champion anymore. So when Flair left to go to Florida or to go to Shreveport, Louisiana, or Jackson, Mississippi, the next week David Von Erich still, that was scary. I couldn't imagine that. David Von Erich would still have to sell out the Sportatorium. He would still have to keep Texas wrestling strong. He would still have to keep world class. Whenever he was facing King Kong Bundy that next week, he would still have to say, I'm almost good, I'm good enough to be world champion. Look what I did against Flair. And next time he comes, I'm going to be the big guy. And Bundy would be in there going, no, I'm the next guy. Or Iceman King Parsons, no, I'm good enough. Or the Freebirds would be in there saying, no, any of us are better than you. We could have won that title had we only got the chance. And Flair would do the same thing in Florida. He would take out Eddie Gilbert or Al Perez or whoever, and then he would be able to go to Charlotte and do the same thing, taking on Magnum TA, making Magnum TA look great. And until Crockett really starts to consolidate and starts to take over the NWA, that was his job. Flair would have to go and make the local guy look just good enough where he could win the championship. So when Flair came back the next year or 6 months later or whatever, either David Flair would be like, okay, you got lucky with me last year, now it's my turn, now I'm actually going to beat you. Or he could say, look, the last guy that you were facing wasn't good enough. I'm better than him, so now it's my turn to get a chance at you. Now it's my turn to get you. And yeah, sometimes he would win, sometimes he'd lose. He'd lose the title back to Race, or he'd lose the title to Ronnie Garvin, or whatever. But that was the expectation. He was there to keep that thing. Had Flair done what Hogan did, and let's say, for example, he takes the claw from David Von Erich and he breaks it over the ropes, and then he body slams David Flair, throws him in the figure four, and David Von Erich taps or passes out or loses immediately, then not only is his finisher crushed, but he also shows that Flair's just a much better wrestler than he ever thought about being. Which means the next week in the Sportatorium, when David Von Erich is taking on Bundy, the house is down because everybody knows that they're seeing a second-class wrestler as our local champion. They know he's not good enough. So Flair could not do the Hogan match. And Hogan, because he had to show that he was head and shoulders against everybody else, and as we kept bringing in these local people to face him in the AWA, well, you could not do that reversed. It's like Bundy was looked at as a credible challenger to everybody in Texas. He goes to WrestleMania 2 and gets slapped around by Hogan, and then the next month, next year he's fighting midgets. Okay, obviously Texas wrestling isn't nearly as good as the WWF. So that is the difference between the two characters' jobs. Could Hogan have done Flair's job? Not at all, because he wasn't as good as a wrestler, as we all know. He couldn't talk people in the building. Hogan worked as a heel very early in his career, and of course later on in his career, but he wasn't Flair's level as a heel. He wasn't Flair's level as making people hate him until much, much later in his career. I don't think he could have done it, but he have done it. Could he have been put in that position? Could he have done job after job after job, barely squeaking by? I don't think he could. I think he was too huge. I think he would not have been credible putting over everybody that Flair did. Flair's not a gigantic guy. Flair had to survive by his wits, by his athleticism, by his sneakiness, by his horseman tag-alongs. I don't think that Hogan could have pulled that off under any stretch of circumstances, which, again, we saw in the NWO. How many times did Hogan have his title saved by Savage running in, by Giant running in, Hall and Nash running in, half the roster running in? It worked, but did it work forever? Heck no, because it was the same thing over and over again. After a while, the NWO got stale, and that's basically what happened. People got tired of Hogan getting saved by the rest of his cronies. Never got tired for Flair. Flair did it from, years. I mean, Race was doing it before the first Starrcade against Flair. And Flair did it basically for the next decade. And it never got tired. It never got really overly stale until you really started getting all the dusty finishes. But that is the difference between the two men. So, who's the better wrestler? Well, as you know, I'm a Flair fan. But you're going to have to come back next week to actually see who I say was actually the better wrestler at doing their job. And I want you to make sure you come by the website. Make sure you drop me a comment below, or you can always shoot us an email or hit me up on Twitter if you'd like. If you disagree with my concept of who the wrestler's job is. I do want to thank you for playing, and I will see you Friday for my A-side, where I'll be giving my predictions. If you've got a game or a fight you really have to make me break down, I don't have a problem doing it. I just want to say in week 1, I went 5-0. Yes, I did. I started out the wing gangbusters. So I'll probably go 0-5 this week, but that's okay. But if you don't want to look at game predictions or NFL MMA talk, I will see you next week, and we'll talk about who actually did their job better, Hogan or Flair. And if, say, Hogan did get his leg broken or Flair did break his back in the plane crash, who could have done their jobs just as well as they did? I think you'll be kind of surprised. And I will see you next week. Bye.